What a pinch of yeast can do to a large amount of dough. The transformation it brings is truly astounding, isn't it? Today, we're delving into a parable that uses this everyday miracle to illustrate a profound spiritual truth. This is the parable of the yeast found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 33 to 34. As you might already know, yeast, though small, has the power to permeate an entire batch of dough, causing it to rise into a lovely loaf of bread. Similarly, this parable invites us to consider how small acts of faith, love, and kindness can transform not only our lives, but also the world around us. Like the yeast working its power in the dough, spiritual transformation often happens quietly, subtly, yet powerful enough to bring about a substantial change. The beauty of this parable is in its simplicity, and yet it holds a profound truth that can stir our hearts and minds. In the next few minutes, we will venture deeply into this parable, grasping its profound implications for our lives. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough. This verse, found in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 13, presents a vivid metaphor that encapsulates the essence of the kingdom of heaven. It's an image that speaks to the transformative power inherent in the kingdom of heaven and its ability to permeate all aspects of life. Let's break this down. The first part of this verse describes the kingdom of heaven as yeast. Now, yeast is a tiny organism, but when added to dough, it has the power to transform it completely. Similarly, the kingdom of heaven, although it may seem inconspicuous and unassuming, has the potential to bring about profound change. It's not about grand gestures or ostentatious displays of power. Instead, it's about the subtle, quiet, and yet relentless force that permeates and transforms everything it touches. Next, we have the woman who took the yeast and mixed it into about 60 pounds of flour. The woman can be seen as a representation of the faithful, those who actively work to incorporate the teachings of the kingdom of heaven into their lives. The act of mixing the yeast into the flour signifies the deliberate and intentional effort required to bring about this transformation. It's not a passive process, it requires active participation and commitment. The 60 pounds of flour is quite a significant quantity. This could symbolize the vastness of the world, indicating that the influence of the kingdom of heaven is meant to reach far and wide, permeating all corners of existence. Lastly, the yeast worked all through the dough. This signifies the thorough transformation that takes place once the kingdom of heaven begins its work. Just as yeast changes the very nature of dough, making it rise and become something entirely different, so too does the kingdom of heaven transform those who embrace it. It's not a superficial change, but a deep, fundamental shift that affects every aspect of one's being. In essence, this parable is a reminder of the transformative power of faith and the potential it has to bring about profound change. It encourages us to actively incorporate the teachings of the kingdom of heaven into our lives, to let it permeate our very being, and to allow it to transform us from within. The metaphor of yeast and dough is a powerful illustration of how a seemingly small and insignificant act can have a profound and far-reaching impact. It's a call to action, urging us to embrace the teachings of the kingdom of heaven and to allow it to work its transformative power in our lives. Thus, a small act can bring about great transformation, just as yeast works through the dough. To truly understand this parable, we need to step back into the time of Jesus. Let's journey back, shall we? To an era where the aroma of baking bread was a common scent in every household, a time when bread was not just a part of the meal, but the heart of it. In the first century Middle East, where this parable is set, bread was a staple food. It was a symbol of sustenance and life. Yeast, on the other hand, was a common metaphor for influence, be it good or bad. When Jesus mentioned yeast in the parable, his audience would have immediately understood the implications. But let's delve a bit deeper into the process of bread making during Jesus' time. To make bread, a small lump of dough from the previous batch, which contained yeast, was mixed with fresh flour and water. This mixture was then left to ferment, causing the dough to rise and thus leavening the bread. This process, while seemingly simple, was vital for the survival of the family. and was a daily task primarily carried out by the women of the household. Indeed, women played a crucial role in bread making. It was their hands that kneaded the dough, their vigilance that ensured the right amount of yeast was used, and their skill that baked the loaves to perfection. Through this seemingly mundane task, they held the well-being of their families in their hands, influencing their health and nutrition. This understanding of the cultural and historical significance of yeast and bread making paints a vivid picture of the parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough. The woman, with her crucial role and influence, is analogous to each of us. Just as a little yeast leavens the whole batch of dough, so too can our actions, no matter how small, influence the world around us. Knowing this historical context brings a new depth to our understanding of the parable. It's not just about bread and yeast, but about influence, responsibility, and the potential for transformation that lies within each of us. Now, let's bring this parable into our current day and age. How does it apply to our lives? It's fascinating, isn't it? How a parable written over 2,000 years ago can still resonate with us in the modern world. The parable of the yeast, found in the Gospel of Matthew, serves as a perfect illustration of how seemingly small actions can have a monumental impact. Let's consider acts of kindness, love, and faith. These actions, as small as they may seem, are like the yeast in the dough. They may not appear significant at first glance, but just as yeast causes dough to rise, these acts can bring about significant changes in our lives and society. Take kindness, for instance. A simple act of kindness, like helping a neighbor with their groceries or complimenting a coworker, can create a ripple effect. That neighbor may be inspired to assist someone else, and that coworker might go home with a smile, spreading positivity to their family. And just like that, your small act of kindness has spread, touched lives, and made the world a little bit better. Love, too, works in the same way. By showing love to the people around us, we not only enrich our own lives, but also inspire others to do the same. Love has a way of multiplying, and it makes the world a warmer, happier place. Faith, whether it's faith in a higher power, in other people, or in ourselves, can be a powerful catalyst for change. Just like the yeast that works silently within the dough, faith works within us, giving us the strength and courage to face life's challenges. And so, the parable reminds us that our actions, no matter how small, have the potential to bring about significant changes. It encourages us to be kind, to love, and to have faith. It assures us that even if we feel small and insignificant, we have the power to make a difference. Just as yeast transforms dough, so too can our actions transform our world. What small act can you do today that will bring about a positive transformation in your life or in the lives of others? As we've journeyed through the parable, we've seen how yeast, a seemingly insignificant ingredient, can cause an impressive transformation in dough. This offers a powerful metaphor for our lives. Just as a small amount of yeast can leaven an entire batch of dough, so too can our seemingly small acts of love, kindness, and faith. These acts, though they might seem insignificant, can bring about tremendous changes in our lives and the lives of those around us. So, let's take a moment to reflect. What small acts can we perform today? How can we be the yeast in our own lives and the lives of others? Each act of kindness, each expression of love, each instance of faith, they're not just isolated events, they're seeds of transformation, waiting to grow, to expand, to change the world around us. So, let's not underestimate their power. Every small act of kindness, love, and faith can bring about a significant transformation, just like yeast in dough. Let's embrace these acts and witness the transformation in our lives and society.